What's going on, everybody? This is the Blazer Podcast with me, Stephen Vaughan. That's Tori Jones. First off the bat, right now, there's news in Blazerland, but we gotta address certain things, Tori. We are in the process of renaming the podcast, and we're having a little trouble. So I'm just gonna call it the Blazer Podcast right now. That's obviously not gonna be the name going forward, but we would love to hear suggestions. Anything that you guys like, that'd be cool. Tori, what do you think about that? You got any suggestions? Because I don't, as of this point. I got nothing.
I don't want to admit how much I've actually tried to come up with a name because I have struggled with this for a couple of weeks now, and we need help from the community coming up with a podcast name for this baller next to me. And me, it could be anything. I don't know. Like I was thinking maybe Last Take, since we argue a lot, but we're like we're not First Take, we're Last Take. But
I feel like a lot of these people that are going to be listening to this will be like, oh, the one guy that's right and the one guy that's wrong. Like the one guy I agree with, the other guy I disagree with. Especially after these Dame takes, I already know I'm going to the Lions Den, dude. I tweeted that I'm going to the Lions Den. But you know what? It's just me and myself, and I'm fine with that. That's the way it's always been. I got my own back. But it's truly what I believe is what I'll be saying. So I'm just saying that right now, and I'm excited, Tori. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I just got off a live with Eric that we were doing for over 2 hours, so I'm a little worn out. Voice is a little tired. You caught me at the right time. I don't know.
Just like you caught me on the 1-on-1 game, dude.
Yeah, at the right. Well, now I got a sprained ankle, so now if we played again, you could catch me at the right time with that too. So, have you been hooping at all? Have you been getting in shape? You said you were pretty motivated for a rematch. Are you still motivated?
I'm very motivated. Have I been doing anything? No, I haven't been doing anything differently except for mentally. Mentally, I am in my head thinking, yeah, you know what, I can make some shots this time. So you're going down if we play again. That's all I know.
We need to get your ass in the gym, and we need to get you, because I want a challenge. I want a little bit of a challenge this time. The only challenge was the 100-degree gym. That was miserable, and then your deep threes, your freaking deep threes that came out of nowhere.
I mean, I can shoot, dude. I can shoot. But it got to hit those little bunnies. All right, nobody wants to hear about us, Tori. They want to hear about Dame. They want to hear about the Chris Haynes stuff. I think we should start with the Dame piece. The Dame trade with Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton. The Drew Holiday part I think is the most interesting part because if you just look at it on, the trade as itself, as it is right now with Drew Holiday coming to Portland, you could argue not a lot of assets back, but obviously, it seems like Drew Holiday is going to be flipped sooner rather than later. I can't imagine that he comes to, he may come to training camp or something. He may be on the roster at that point, but regular season, I can't see him on the team. I think he'll be gone by then. I think right now, the floor for Drew Holiday, I think at worst, it's a pick and a young player. But I kind of think it's almost 2 picks and a player. Maybe not a super young player, maybe not a good player, but probably 2 picks and a bad contract to match, and then, maybe even another player involved. I think that's kind of the floor for Drew Holiday. There's playoff teams that are going to want this guy. How good he is defensively still, even at his age. I know there's the questions of if he actually wants to play after this contract. It's going to be tough to say, but at the same time, if he can still produce, he's going to get a good contract when his new one's up. So I think Portland's going to be able to get 2 picks for him, maybe even another player. Whether that's a good player or not, who knows? But I think they're going to get something good for it. And if that's the case, I have to think that the overall trade for Dame, while it does hurt to see Dame go somewhere else and it's a little sad, I think it's a dub for the Blazers.
If he only fetches a first and a young player for Drew Holiday, the Dame trade to me is an absolute failure. Absolute failure. Because
what if it's 2? What if it's 2 though?
If it's 2, here's how
I only said 1 because I wanted to play it safe. I do think it's more likely 2.
If it's 2 firsts, it's very, very bleh to me. If it's just straight up 2 firsts. And that's just based on what people's expectations were for a Dame trade, because everything leading up that we were hearing was like, oh yeah, you can't take a Miami Heat package if it's just only 3 first-round picks and a couple of swaps. That package was not good. That package was not good if it was coming from the Heat. Well, they only got 1 first-round pick and 2 swaps for Dame, and they also got Drew Holiday. So if they get back 2 firsts for Drew Holiday, in the end, it's still only 3 firsts and a couple swaps. So we can argue about like Milwaukee's pick being more likely to be at the top of the draft in 2029 than Miami, but it's so hard to predict 5 years out that it's like, in the end, if it just ends up being like 3 firsts and a couple swaps for Dame, that package from Miami was supposed to be really, really bad. So how is getting it another way really, really good? That to me just feels like people just didn't want to trade him to Miami, so that's why they're more okay with doing it this way, even though it's still the same result.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is the DeAndre Ayton, Tyler Hero factor. Like, I like Tyler Hero as a player. I think he's a good player, but he obviously doesn't fit in Portland with what they have going on. Like, there's no minutes for him. So, at least with DeAndre Ayton, like, he's a playable player. He's going to start at center. He's in the above average starting center in the NBA. He's overpaid, yes, but he can do some things. I would say he's even an upgrade over Nurk from what they've had, and he's still on 25. So he can still grow with the young guys in Scoot and Shaden Sharp. Like, the thing about Tyler Hero is I know his stats, and this is what I kind of think about Anthony Simons too, and it's not that you can just find 2 guards, but you can find shooting guards that can score. Not at the efficiency that Anthony Simons does, but like you look around the NBA, like even guys like Cameron Thomas, like he was drafted late first round. When he played, he was averaging over 20 a game as a starter. Like, you can find dudes that can score the basketball. That's why there's the NBA, and these guys are all super talented. So like when Tyler Hero is scoring that many points, like it's not a dime a dozen, but like you can find these type of guys, and that's why I kind of lower Anthony Simons a little bit compared to everybody else, but I understand he's a good player, he's a good shooter. So I think that's the reason why, at least for me, like I like this trade better than I did Miami, because I don't think Tyler Hero was a great asset to the Blazers. I think DeAndre Ayton, for whatever he is, he can play. I do think eventually, if he sucks or the Blazers end up going in a different direction, you can trade that guy, and you're not going to get a lot back, but I don't think you could trade Tyler Hero and get a lot back either. So I don't think it's much there, but I think he's a better fit on the floor going forward with the young guys of Scoot and Shaden, because that's the era now. It's the Scoot Henderson era. It's not even the Shaden Sharp era. It's the Scoot Henderson era, and you want to put a big next to Scoot Henderson that hopefully you can go pick and roll and have a nice little combo. I think that's a good start to have Scoot and DeAndre Ayton. So for me, like that's the reason why I think that the Bucks package is, I don't know if it's much better than Miami, but it is definitely better than Miami's.
I don't analyze DeAndre Ayton's part in this trade as part of the Dame trade because it was basically separate. The only piece involved from the Bucks there was Grayson Allen, but he just looks like a throw-in partly for salary purposes on Milwaukee's end and partly just to get like a role player from on Phoenix's end. The reporting was that Phoenix and Portland have been talking about this since mid-July, and there's also been reporting, I forget who it was from, but I read that this deal could have been done without involving a third team. So the DeAndre Ayton part of this trade, in my opinion, is a win. And that comes from somebody that has never been super high on getting DeAndre Ayton, but basically you're trading Nurkic, Keon Johnson, and Nasir Little for DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton makes like $5 million more than those guys. Like, DeAndre Ayton is overpaid and shouldn't be on a max contract, in my opinion, but in the position Portland's in to only pay like an extra $5 million a year to take the chance on the upside, because DeAndre Ayton has upside to be noticeably better than any other piece that Portland's giving up. That's a worthwhile gamble. It's like basically no risk. The reward, if you can get something out of DeAndre Ayton, maybe he takes a step like Lauri Markkanen did when he got traded to the Jazz and like became an all-star, got a little bit more responsibility. Maybe DeAndre Ayton has that step in him. Like, why not give up those assets to find out when you're starting off a rebuild? Like, I am perfectly okay. I think the DeAndre Ayton part was a win, especially because they got back Tamani Kamara, who is like very underrated, was really good in Summer League, averaged almost 17 points per game and can play some defense, and is kind of that long, rangy wing that can maybe switch out and guard some guards. Like, the Blazers have needed that type of defender since they lost Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless in the 2019 offseason. So, like, the DeAndre Ayton part of the trade, the Phoenix part of the trade, I analyze separately, and I think is an absolute win. I just think when it comes back to Dame, you gotta be able to at least walk out of there saying we got 3 firsts for Dame and a couple of swaps. Now, of course, like unprotected picks, 1 unprotected pick might be better than 2 protected picks, depending on when it is, what teams it is, and what the protections are. So it's not just clear cut and dry. But man, like the minimum for me to be okay with the Dame part of the trade is like getting back unprotected picks in 2028 and 2030 from the Los Angeles Clippers for Drew Holiday. Or maybe it's Drew Holiday to Philadelphia and they trade Harden there and the Blazers get those 2 unprotected picks. That's kind of the floor for me to be like accepting of this Dame trade. And it still feels like it's a little bit low, only getting back 3 firsts for Dame.
I was looking at the former sportsbook that we were doing stuff for. I don't want to mention their name, the old podcast, but they had odds of where Drew Holiday will play next besides Portland, and Boston was the leader at this point. So whatever that means, I don't know if that's the case where he goes to Boston, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams, and I think you're right. Like I still count the Ayton part as part of the Dame trade because technically it was, so I'm going to just always do that just because I think that's kind of how it goes. And I think Tyler Hero, if he was traded to Portland, it would have been with a third team as well. Like, it wasn't just going to be a straight Blazers with Miami trade. It was going to be 3 or 4 teams. So I'm going to add it all in there. And I know, the pick swaps, it is what it is. Some people think they matter. Some people don't think they matter. I tend to think those are kind of just throw-ins. I mean, I don't necessarily think those are great things to have, but you're right. The unprotected picks are key. And I brought this up on the BFT, and I kind of believe it. Now, with all the talk that, Dame wasn't going to report to any team besides Miami or Portland, and it seems pretty obvious from the Chris Haynes piece that that's the only 2 places he really wanted to play, there's definitely a non-zero chance that Dame is frustrated after a year. And is there a chance that he says, you know what? I don't want to play in Milwaukee. I want to go to Miami. And he requests a trade out from Milwaukee. And if that happens, what does Giannis say? Does Giannis want out at that point? And then the 2029 pick will look a lot better for Portland. So, I'm being optimistic here. Maybe Dame says, I care too much about the Blazer fans. I didn't want to be so mean about it, but I don't care about these Milwaukee fans. I have no connection to them. Maybe he forces a trade out of Milwaukee. Tori, what do you think about that? What do you think of that theory?
I don't think that's realistic. I mean, the good thing about that pick being in 2029 is it's far enough into the future that, like, Dame, there's a good chance he's retired by then, right? So, I would have rather had... Some people want picks right now. If I'm getting an unprotected pick from a team like Milwaukee who's contending right now that we're sending Dame to, I want it to be that far in the future because they might fall apart by then. Because that's a long time. That's a long time. A lot can change in a couple of years, let alone 5.
No, I'll be clear. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying non-zero chance.
I don't think...
But in the offseason, Aaron Goodwin was out there saying Dame's not going to report to anybody. So why is it guaranteed that he's going to be happy when he goes to Milwaukee?
Because he was trying to get
when
him
it's
to his
15
preferred
degrees out, and he wants to go to Miami with bottle service, not get cheese curds in Wisconsin.
He's playing with Giannis. He loves Giannis. Like, those 2 dudes love each other, bro. Like, they have talked about playing with each other in the past. They just wanted to bring each other to each other's markets. Like, Milwaukee was basically like his second choice.
If COVID didn't happen, Giannis may be in Portland.
Yeah, but
I'll say that.
Who knows? Of course, it's going to be in Milwaukee, right? Because we don't get nice things. But as far as that goes, like, Dame and Giannis are probably going to make the Eastern Conference Finals and, like, be contender level good. And Dame's going to love that. I don't think he goes anywhere. Like, right. if they lose in the West or the Eastern Conference Finals in like 6 games, it's going to be, man, like, I was 2 games away from the finals. Like, let's run it back. Let's get it. That's Dame's attitude.
I was trying to be optimistic and hope that the Blazers pick turns into something. But you're right. Like, I think that your scenario is way more likely than what I said. I just thought there's a non-zero chance, and maybe that happens for Portland. But that was what you touched on there. That was my initial reaction to this trade. Was I was happy that it's over. Like, I was happy that the trade finally happened and we can talk about it. But my first thought was after that it was, man, I wish this is what the Blazers did. I wish this is what Dame did when he was 28 years old, which is what Giannis is. Giannis is 28. I wish Dame would have put even more pressure on the Blazers and said, like, in public, I need more players here or I may not want to play here. Like, Giannis said, I want to be a Milwaukee Buck, but you got to help me out or else I got to leave. I wish Dame would have done that because I think at that point, if he does that, maybe that something changes, maybe it doesn't. And maybe we can talk about the ownership part and the GM part. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe Neil O'Shea still does the same things and he's outside on the fringes getting those guys that don't really help, but are somewhat he thinks value. That was my thought, man. I just thought, man, I wish this was 5 years ago and we could switch the situation where it's Dame saying, I need help, I need the people to bring in. And then maybe the Blazers would have done something like that. But, yeah, man, it's just, that was the saddest part for me is, like, I don't want to put the blame on Dame because it's hard to do that. It's hard to go out and say, I need players like that, but I really wish he would have.
You know what's funny is, like, he's put more pressure on this Blazers front office in the past couple of years and kind of ratcheted it up, and it seems to have backfired because it seems like Joe Cronin and the Blazers organization got tired of the pressure that Dame was putting on them. So, it's also funny how, there's an argument that Dame putting pressure on the Blazers reduces Joe Cronin's leverage in deals because, like, he has to do something and teams know that, right? But meanwhile, all of a sudden it's like, wow, Giannis might leave the Bucks. A couple days later, oh, you get Damian Lillard now.
And the thing is like 5 years ago when Dame was 28, that's when the Blazers just got swept by the Pelicans. Like, it was the perfect time to be like, look, I love it here in Portland. I need help. Like, this is unacceptable. So it's just... that part rings just so, man, it made me sad thinking about that. That was my first thought, Tori. So, all right, let's talk about this Chris Haynes piece. I'm sure most people have read it. Most people have seen it. Here's my thing.
I'm looking forward to what you're about to say. I have no idea what it is, but I'm definitely looking forward to it.
All right, so I put out a tweet, and of course, people jump at me. And I said it was pretty obvious that Joe Cronin wanted to rebuild the team when he got the job. They were never going to compete with Dame for a championship. They weren't one piece away. I don't blame Cronin. I don't blame Dame for being trade. A Dame trade had to be done. And I think some people took that as I'm defending Joe Cronin. I'm not defending Joe Cronin with how he went about it. I would not have done the same thing. I would not have treated, like, that's not how I would have gone about business either. I think he could have done a lot better job in that way. But what I will defend Joe Cronin on is it was time for a trade. It was time to deal Damian Lillard. The Blazers were not close. Let's not forget that. This team wasn't good the last two seasons. They started out 7-3, Tori. You were on board. I'm like, yeah, let's hold back a little bit. And you know what? It turned out they weren't very good. The year before, Dame was hurt. I understand that. They weren't very good. This team wasn't close to the championship. So I understand that you say, okay, they should have traded the lottery pick for a veteran. That lottery pick turns out to be Scoot Henderson. You can't trade it. You can't trade where you're going to get Scoot Henderson. You just can't. That's going to be a loss of a trade. It's going to hurt the franchise down the road. You trade that for a veteran, the Blazers aren't close to a championship. They weren't. And so for me, there was really no chance that they're going to get enough assets and enough good players on this team to compete for a championship with Damian Lillard in his prime. I was on the board of the last couple seasons of you have to at least explore a trade with Dame, and I got killed for it. Like, I still believe that they should have a couple years ago looked to trade Dame. Joe Cronin, when he got the job, he wanted to trade Dame. He wanted to rebuild. You can tell that by the moves that he made. By now all this stuff coming out, you could tell that he wanted to trade Damian Lillard and rebuild with his own roster because that's what new GMs do. So I will defend Joe Cronin on that, and that he wanted to rebuild. He wanted to build his own team. And he wanted to trade Damian Lillard, as he kind of should have. This team wasn't close, and Dame is your best asset. And you look now, if they end up getting 3 first-round picks, you have Scoot Henderson, you have Shaedon Sharpe, you have DeAndre Ayton, you have picks. It's not a bad starting point. And so for that, I will defend Joe Cronin. I don't defend Joe Cronin for all the lying, whatever. Like, lying happens in sports. I'm not even mad about that, but, like, the way he went about it is bad. So that's my first point.
I mean,
you can react.
The thing is like nobody has a problem with you thinking they should have gone the rebuilding route this offseason. Like, that's what I've discovered is for the people that are very frustrated with Joe Cronin, it's not about him choosing the rebuild route. It's about him being too scared to own it and trying to pretend like he wasn't. It wasn't about what he did. It was the way he did it. It was the way he went about it. And it's like, I don't even think we disagree here. You just got people barking up your tree because, it's
because how I worded it.
Yeah, instead of focusing on, like, the whole Haynes piece today was basically how Cronin went about things, and it was wrong. And that was, like, the whole point of the Chris Haynes article. And you're talking about like, well, they should have went the rebuild route, and it's like just kind of like brushing over how it went. I would just love to see a tweet from you out of the blue where it's like, I do not like the way Cronin went about this, and I'd be impressed, man. I'd be like, all right, there we go, we got Steven. We finally got to him.
I go to the good side. I don't know if that's possible. All right, well, okay, well here we'll dig in a little deeper than the Haynes article. A lot of Blazer fans, I feel like, are mad because when they weren't talking to one another, right? That was the whole thing, is Dame, Aaron Goodwin, Joe Cronin, they were not on speaking terms. Like, the Blazers would not return phone calls. Blazer fans are mad about that, right, Tori? You could agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, they're mad about the whole entire thing. I'm not sure specifically what, but...
Okay. And so then when it seemed that the Blazers weren't going to deal with the Heat because they hadn't talked to them since July, which I knew that. I had told you that even at the start of this trade request, the Blazers didn't want to deal Dame to Miami. Like, they just didn't want to do it. And it's not something I'm going to report. I don't break news. I don't report things. It just forms my opinion on things when I hear it from different people, and I heard it from numerous people. So I had no reason not to believe that. So it's not shocking to me when that stuff comes out now. I've also heard some things of like the Blazers management, that would be like Bert Cold, has problems with some people in the Heat. Like, he doesn't want to deal with them. Like, it's personal on that level also. So it's not just Joe Cronin.
Like, what specifically caused Bert Cold to have personal problems with someone in Miami? Is it like this situation or situations prior? Is kind of what I'm curious.
It's from the past. It's from the past. So, hold on here. Let me figure this out as I'm on the fly here. Okay, so obviously Eric Spoelstra, he's from Portland, right? Yeah. His dad, John Spoelstra, he used to work with the Blazers as an executive. From what I have heard, him and Bert Cold don't get along because Paul Allen really liked John Spoelstra, and Bert didn't like that. And so Bert kind of holds that above the Heat's head. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not. And so, like, he doesn't want to deal with Eric Spoelstra. He doesn't want to deal with Pat Riley. Like,
bro,
he doesn't.
Bro.
I'm not joking. I've heard this. I don't know if it's true.
If that's true, though, we are so freaking dysfunctional. Oh my God.
Well, I will say this also, Tori. I may have to retract a couple and apologize to Jody Allen a little bit. And let me tell you why. Dame made it clear to thank her, and thank her very well. She was the first person that he thanked. I don't think Dame has a problem with Jody Allen. I think Dame has a problem with Bert Cold.
And the other guy he omitted.
Obviously Cronin. But I don't think he has a problem with Jody Allen. I don't think Jody Allen is the problem at all.
Well, that's where it comes back to, like, how much of ownership is directed by Bert Cold and how much of it is Jody Allen. Like, is Jody Allen just along for the ride? Then, yeah, I mean, I probably owe an apology to her myself, but she is the one who is letting Bert Cold control everything, so in some ways she does deserve some of the responsibility for ownership mishaps, even if Bert Cold is the one in control. But, yeah, like...
I just found that interesting. I found that interesting that he made sure to thank her personally and did it first.
Yeah.
For whatever that is. And maybe she is terrible still, but I don't know. I found that very interesting. Now, the whole Bert Cold Miami thing, again, I don't know if that's true. That's just stuff that I've heard because the Spoelstra family does have ties to Portland. I've also heard that Eric Spoelstra may have had interest at some point with the Blazers, and the Blazers just didn't reach out to him. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if any of this stuff is true. But I did hear that the Blazers didn't want to deal with Miami. I don't know if that's the reason. But they obviously didn't want to deal with Miami for whatever reason it is. I think it's more of the fact that if you make that trade with Pat Riley has that reputation. It's going to be a win for Pat Riley. It's going to be a loss for you, no matter what the trade is. You could have gotten Jimmy Butler back and everyone would be like, nah, Pat Riley knows what he's doing. Heat culture. He knows exactly what you're doing. And of course, I'm being a little facetious here, but that's kind of how it works, dude. Like, kind of like the Warriors. When someone signs with the Warriors, remember, what's his nuts? Who was on the Warriors? The big white dude that shot a bunch of threes. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
A couple years ago.
Bielitsa?
Bielitsa.
Yeah.
He had a big first couple games with the Warriors.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, Warriors culture. Bielitsa's going to be... You know who wasn't very good? It was Bielitsa on the Warriors. But we all gave him credit because he went to the Warriors.
I was one of those people giving him credit because I like Bielitsa.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, like, the Heat are the same way. Like, anybody the Heat acquire... Oh, okay, Heat culture. I know you guys are big Orlando Robinson fans. You know what Orlando Robinson hasn't done? Played in the NBA and done anything.
He's good, though. I liked him before he got there. It's not because he's there.
I understand this.
Part of it is they are able to identify guys like that to get them there in the first place.
He's good how? He's good how? He's
skilled.
Fact that he made a roster?
Automatic floater from a center that can shoot threes and put the ball on the floor a little bit. He loves that little, like, bank hook shot that you tried shooting on me when we played, like, but he actually made his.
Heat culture. But the fact that, like, people even grade him as, like, an NBA player, it's because he's on the Heat. If he's on the Mavericks, nobody cares.
He'd be a better backup center than anybody we got right now.
Of course, the Blazers are terrible, but that's not my point. My point is that no matter what happens, Pat Riley's going to win the trade. So Bert Cole and Joe Cronin look at that and say, you know what? I'm not doing this trade because we're going to get killed in the public. No matter what the trade is, we're going to get killed in NBA circles. Everybody's like, oh, Pat Riley just fleeced us. I think that was the main reason over anything why they didn't deal with Miami. So that's my point.
I believe it because I felt like this organization and the people running it operate too much off of emotion and their over-obsession about public perception.
So I don't think it's pettiness. I don't think it's like we aren't dealing you to Miami because you said it, Dame. I think it's more like we don't want to look bad.
Yeah, but it's like do what's best for the team in the long run. If you have confidence in yourself to be able to manage an NBA team, even if you get killed for initial move, you should have a bigger plan and have confidence in yourself to be able to pull off that plan. That just, to me, says like they just don't have confidence to be able to actually come out of that trade ahead. So they are willing to take a worse package because they don't it's just like a non-confident thing. And that's the whole thing with like, and this goes back to building around Dame versus trading him away and rebuilding. Like, I always thought trading him away and rebuilding was kind of the defeatist mindset. Like, we can't contend around our best player ever and a dude who averaged 32 a game last year. And even though we had two other 20-point per game scorers, a third pick and a seventh pick to potentially go out there and put a team around him, two full mid-level exceptions, like, we just couldn't do it. That's just kind of a defeatist mindset to be like, I always wanted... I want people running the team that are like willing to take on the challenge of making that happen and take a risk to make it happen with like a let's go do this and see what happens. Let's see if we can get to the top of that mountaintop, because it kind of takes that mindset. That's what Milwaukee did in terms of trading for Dame. Like, let's get back, let's win another championship. Let's get back to the top. Giannis kind of sparked that with them, and instead of like, oh, he's putting too much pressure on us, we actually don't really want Giannis anymore, we want to go young. Instead, they go out and get freaking Damian Lillard. And that's where it comes back to like all about execution, and I don't think they should care about public perception. I don't think, I don't like all the excuses like they can't do anything, they had nothing available, they could never do it. Just all the like stripping of responsibility that happens in regards to people making excuses for him. It's just so like defeatist, and it's just not the type of mindset I want for people running an organization. So that's kind of my problem, is like if they didn't want to trade Dame to the Heat because of Bert Cold's personal gripe from the past with Paul Allen and Eric Spoelstra's father or whatever, like not liking guys like that, that's just ridiculous. You can't run and own an NBA team if you're willing to let that sort of stuff affect your decision making. And then as far as it goes with caring about public perception, if you're good at what you do, in the long run it'll work out and you'll be applauded for it. So just do what's best for the team. That simple.
I fully agree with you, for the record, and I think it speaks volumes that John Horst, the GM of the Bucks, he didn't ask Giannis if he wanted the trade. He just did it. He has the autonomy to do it. The ownership steps back and they say, hey, Horst, do your job. Make this team better. He says, I need to make this trade because my job's on the line. If I lose Giannis, I'm fired. If I don't win a championship, Giannis is gone, I'm gone, everyone's gone. I'm going to make a move without even telling anybody. Like, I'm going to make this autonomy. They trust me to do it. I trust myself. That obviously isn't how it works in Portland. And you know this, Tori. Like, Joe Cronin, for all that we hate him about, there's no way he could say, let's just say, hypothetically, the 76ers said, hey, Joel Embiid for the third pick, let's do it. He has to run that up the ladder. He has to run that up the ladder to numerous people. He can't just make that trade. The Bucks give John Horst that freedom to say, I'm going to trade Jrue Holiday, someone that Giannis loves, Giannis would never want to trade in his career for Damian Lillard because it helps the team. So you're right that it's like that is ownership's fault. That is the Blazers' fault that they don't give their people the autonomy to do that trade. And that's the sad part. Like, that's just how it works in Portland. Portland is so worried and always has been about their public persona. I mean, for as long as I've been a fan, and I've been here my whole life, the 36 years, dude, like, that's the way they run their business. They care so much about the public perception, and it's unfortunate because sometimes it turns into this. So I agree with you on this, but it's just, I don't know, man. It just sucks, dude. The Blazers suck. That's all it is.
You know what's extra frustrating for me, man? Like, I am outspoken and I'm not afraid to put my opinion out there, even if it's not popular. I don't sit there and like, oh, I'm gonna get backlash for this if I speak my mind. Like, I'm confident in what I think, so I say it, and that's just kind of my whole mindset. Makes it even more frustrating. Like, you're a freaking professional sports organization. The fact that you don't have confidence in your own decision making is just a major red flag. And it's like, even if you make the case like this is the right path to go, the rebuild route, do we trust this collection of people to effectively pull it off if they don't have confidence in a long-term plan, if they don't have conviction? Here's the thing. If the Blazers suck the next couple of years and get high draft picks and maybe get Cooper Flagg, they're probably going to be too good for Blazers brass to mess up. That's like really the only way is like, and that's kind of why I'm willing to embrace the rebuild route, is that's the only way where I foresee them being a contender with the people running this team right now. Because if it takes shrewd moves and aggression and negotiating tact and that sort of thing in order to get this new iteration of the Blazers to contention one day, I do not have faith in the people running it. So, I'm kind of ready to embrace the fact that the Blazers suck. Like, all right, let's suck the next 2 years. Let's focus on development with Scoot, Sharp, Simons. Even if you don't think Simons should be here long term, I think like seeing if he can take a step and put in responsibility will just give him more trade value, so it'll be better. But it comes down to like you said the Blazers suck, Steven. Like, cool. That's probably maybe the best thing for them right now.
Oh, it's unfortunate. I want him to be good. I mean, I promise I want him to be good. So, no, it's, yeah, you're right about all that. I will say, though, unfortunately, I think this team might be too good to suck really bad. Like, they have Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton. Like, they're going to win some games. That's the problem. Like, I don't know if they're a play-in team, but they're not close to the worst team in the NBA. Like, they're not that close. They're not that bad.
Yeah, but
unless Scoot is not great going into the year one, which I don't think that's true.
Last year at the deadline, they were 2.5 games out of home court advantage, having the greatest individual offensive season maybe in franchise history, as well as 2 other 20-point per game scorers, and they still got the 3rd pick. So if they could figure out a way to do it last year, I feel like they could figure out a way to do it the next couple of years.
Well, let's hope so. Okay, here's where I might lose some people here.
This will be fun.
Going back to the Chris Hayden article, I wrote this down in my notes here to make sure I talk about it. Okay, so the part where the Blazers and the Blazers and Damian Lillard, Aaron Goodwin hadn't talked to each other, and then they decided to meet one last time. And Dame says, I want to go to Miami. What are you doing about it? Joe Cronin says, if I trade you Miami, I'm taking every asset from them. And then Dame got the point and said, all right, well, cool. I guess I'm not going to Miami. I would like to rescind my trade request and come back to Portland. Joe Cronin says, no. I think Blazer fans are probably mad. How did that affect you, Tori? Knowing that Dame wanted to come back to the Blazers.
What really pissed me off is like the whole narrative for Joe Cronin is like, he didn't want this. Dame demanded out. He wanted to keep Dame. And then he goes and does that. What also really bothers me is, you remember that press conference at Summer League in Las Vegas where Cronin talked about this? He had a comment where he said, we are always open to any time Dame wants to be a part of the Portland Trail Blazers. Our goal has always been to keep Dame and always will be and blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically, that was one of the things that stuck out to me. We are always open to any time Dame wants to be a part of the Portland Trail Blazers. So then, there was the saga Dame wants Miami, and they're saying, nope, we're not even going to talk to them. And Dame's like, okay, well, I want to come back. Nope, you don't get that either. What? It's it lines up with the whole thing where this organization tried to make Dame out to be the bad guy. So they were saying, we're always open to if Dame wants to be a part of us, like we didn't want this. But secretly they did. And then when Dame was open to being a part of this, they were like, no. So it's just the fact that they lied and tried to make Dame out to be the bad guy, where behind the scenes they were dealing with it the way they were dealing with it, is what really I think gets to Blazer fans.
Yeah, I think you and me, we were on it pretty quickly. Like, we could tell Joe Cronin wasn't trying to build around Dame. Like, we always kind of do, like, all right, this is kind of weird, the moves he's making. It seems as if he's trying to rebuild without rebuilding, without saying it. On this point of Dame wanting to come back, I have absolutely zero problem with what Joe Cronin did. Zero problem. Dame signed the contract, then he requested to be out in Portland. That's fine. I got no problem with you doing that, Dame. Dame requested to go to Miami. I got no problem with that either. But you know what? That's like me saying, oh, I want to go marry a supermodel, Coach Vaughan. Oh, wait, she denied me. Can I come back now? No, you can't come back. You left me. You don't want to be here. You made it clear you want out of Portland. Why should I take you back? The fact that the Joe Cronin wasn't talking to Aaron Goodwin also, because Aaron Goodwin was behind the scenes trying to sabotage trades to other teams. Why would Joe Cronin want to do anything for these guys? They wanted out. They were trying to sabotage trades. Don't bring him back to the Blazers. I don't want him here. They don't want to be here. The Blazers don't want him there. They made it clear he doesn't want to play in Portland. So, like, don't act like just because you're not getting what you want that you can come back and we should just be open arms to you. No, I'm glad that Joe Cronin said no to that. I have absolutely zero problem that he said, no, you cannot come back to Portland. You made the decision to request a trade. That's on you, man. I have literally no problem with Joe Cronin doing that. Dame wanted out. Dame wanted to go to a better place. It wasn't going to work out. So he comes back and expects the Blazers to be on their hands and knees waiting for him. No, thank you.
You're forgetting a very crucial part of the timeline that is why I have a different opinion on this. And going back to your analogy, because, who doesn't love talking about supermodels, right?
Hopefully Coach Vaughan doesn't listen.
Yeah, it's like if Miss Vaughan said, you know what, like, we should be in an open relationship. You should go see other people. Like, basically kind of like force you out of the house, right? And you're like, okay, well, screw it. You want to force me out of the house? Sure, I'll go talk to the supermodel. And then the supermodel turns you down. And then you like come back home, and she's like, nope, no coming back. You wanted the supermodel. Goodbye.
It was a test.
Like Cronin forced Dame to the point of asking out. The way he handled everything, the fact that he pushed a rebuild route, some of the ways he misled Dame, the whole thing about trading the pick, right? Like, who knows exactly what he said? Like, it could have been as bad as he promised he'd trade the pick if it wasn't number one, which is what Eric's heard, or it could be like what Haynes said, where they were just telling Dame, like, you should sit because we could end up with a really good draft pick that we could trade. Because Dame's whole thing was like, he didn't want the draft pick for a 19-year-old, so the only way they could have incentivized him to sit to get a good draft pick is by trading it, right? So just from that point, and even back to the trade deadline where they're 2.5 games out of home court advantage, and I get it, you have to trade Hart maybe because he might not resign, but like, they don't trade the pick they get back for a piece that can legitimately help them. They don't try to open up first to make a play for anybody on the trade market. Like, they do nothing. The only guy they get is basically Matisse Thybulle, who the Sixers were throwing away, and Cam Reddish. Who was on expiring, and people Kevin Knox. Yeah, like, people got excited about Cam Reddish. So I was sitting there like, they're probably not bringing him back. This dude is just an expiring contract, and he's not that good. People were trying to tell me, oh, he could be the small forward of the future. Well, where is he? He's a Los Angeles Laker now on a minimum contract. Like, cool.
He'll be traded by LeBron by trade deadline.
I mean, we did that again. We did that with Nick Stauskas, Maro Hazonia. Did it with, I said Cam Reddish was the next guy. Well, Cam Reddish was the next guy, but people forget him because we freaking tanked the rest of the year. But basically, my entire point is, like, Cronin, the way he handled everything. Dame, based on that article, seemed to have fear that they were pushing a rebuild. Like, because their moves, as you said, lined up to match that. And I think that's why, in his exit interview after the season, he was making a point about how he did not want to play with 19-year-olds. Because I believe he felt like they were trying to push a rebuild, which ultimately meant him getting pushed out the door. So that's my whole thing with him demanding a trade is like, oh, you demanded the trade, you can't ask back. The Blazers pushed him to demand a trade, then said they were open to having him back at any time, and just were basically lying the entire time. And that's why it's not necessarily a problem with them choosing a rebuild route. It's having a problem with the way they went about it all.
Look, I don't like that Joe Cronin was like, yeah, we would welcome Dame back. We want him back. Like, you can't do that. He went so far that way of trying to please everybody. Obviously, I don't like that, and I don't want to misconstrue that like I'm just defending Joe Cronin. Like, but I've also said this numerous times, Tori. Like, I don't care what people say when they have media stuff. Like, I feel like everybody lies in sports. Everybody does. Like, you're just trying to please everybody, and it doesn't work. And I think Joe Cronin, he's very awkward when he talks. He's not comfortable up there. I think he's probably being told what to say to try to sound smart and like try to come across like he's not the bad guy. Like, he probably has PR people telling him, hey, this is the strategy, you need to do this, and he never looks comfortable up there talking. Like, Neil O'Shea was a used car salesman. He could talk his way out of anything. Joe Cronin's the opposite of that. Like, he can't do that. And so I think he's very uncomfortable, and so he's probably very, like, I would say in a bad way, prepared to, like, with prepared answers, and that's the way he comes across to me. So, like, I don't know. The line by Joe Cronin doesn't necessarily bother me. It does. I just don't have a problem with him putting his foot down and saying, we don't want you back, because he never wanted him there. And I think Dame, like you said, Dame knew that. Dame could see the writing on the wall. And so when it came to the fact that they drafted Scoot, like, yeah, Dame, you're kind of out, dude. Like, that's the way it is. We don't want you back. So, of course, Joe Cronin is not going to be like, yeah, please come back to Portland. Like, he doesn't. He's been trying to get rid of you, and you finally requested a trade. He's going to look like the good guy. So, I don't know, man. The line doesn't necessarily bother me. I would never do it that way. Like, it's really a bad look, but he also just isn't very comfortable, I don't think. And I think he was prepared in a bad way, and it comes across so badly to how Blazer fans have treated. Like, I understand why Blazer fans would be mad about it. Like, it's a terrible look to say we want Damian Lillard at all costs and then have it come out like Dame wants me back. No, we don't want you, Dame. It's a bad look.
I think it's also just the way it was phrased. There is no coming back. And
but
then,
would you agree that he's kind of awkward, and it seems like he is almost like over prepared of like prepared statements to what to say?
Okay, here's the thing. I'm going to hold Joe Cronin accountable for what he says. If this entire thing involves Burt Cold orchestrating everything as an evil genius behind the scenes, where like Cronin is just a puppet and Burt Cold is controlling the strings and like trying to make Dame out to be the bad guy, and then letting Cronin get all the backlash for what he tells Cronin to say, then oh my goodness, shame on that dude. Get the hell out of the NBA right now. Like, get gone. And if the NBA ever found that out, man, maybe they would finally force them to sell, force the trust to sell. Like, that's my one hope if that's the case, because oh my goodness, shame on him. But that's just a random theory. Like, it's Cronin's words. I have to sit here and hold him accountable for what Cronin says. Like, I can't discount that as a possibility, so I'm not completely writing that off. You know, it's just without knowing any better, like, I have to just hold Joe Cronin accountable for what he says. There's really no other way to really view the situation until I have more information that it's actually what you suggested.
And that's fair. That's 100% fair. Like, again, I don't blame you for thinking that way. That's just me being a cynic of, like, hating coach speak, hating all this kind of stuff. Like, I work in the media. I work in radio business. You know what? Sometimes a lot of interviews are very pointless, and they aren't very good. Like, guys don't say anything, and it's just like, what are we doing? Like, say something. You can tell when people don't want to say anything. And so a lot of these press conferences and media stuff, like, I don't get a lot out of it, even in being part of the media. Like, I'm going to media day, but it's like, I don't, some of these answers these guys are going to give, I don't even care.
Where's my interview request? I'll say something. Do
you want to go? I'll send you I can send you the email. I'll send you the email. I'll forward it to you. I'm doing it. I'm forwarding it.
I'm a
Tori,
busy man.
Tori at media day. Hell
Media
yeah.
day.
Hell yeah. You and all the other media, dude.
Think of
the
how much
dirty
side I'd get. Oh my god!
all the dirty looks you would get.
I just laugh, bro. Like, you guys hate me, but I'm here now. So what happened?
I'm doing it. I'm sending you the email. I'm gonna let you get the contact, get you the invite, bro.
I don't, dude. Like,
your fans would love it though.
They would love it. It's
because you can ask questions. You can ask a question. Tori Jones, Blazers Uprise.
Do you think that's how I'd sound? Maybe, dude. I'd probably be kind of nervous. I'd be out of my element. I'm a YouTuber. I'm not a media guy. Okay.
Just live stream from Media Day.
I have not taken 4 years of college and trained to do that.
Me either.
Have just sat here at home and done nothing and somehow magically got a platform. Right?
I have a business degree. I literally had 0 jobs that have to do with business. So, but I'm an idiot. So it's
honestly, like next regime. Okay, if there's ever a new regime and like a completely new media group that didn't know me, I'd roll in there like, what's up? You know, I'm just a positive guy. Just a positive guy. Love media and got no problems. Yeah,
it's like you're going to a new school. You're going to a new school. All your old reputation goes out the door.
Yeah, I bet you I could go down to Miami and like have some success, and they would be cool with me.
Well, Miami fans love you, that's for sure. Okay, what were we talking about? Dame not coming back to Portland again. I think that's fine.
Let me bring up some.
Yeah,
the fact that the NBA had to step in like a parent with a Zoom call and be like, Portland, you better start communicating. I don't know what you're doing, but I don't like it, is kind of embarrassing to me for Portland.
It's like a little
they set up a Zoom call and it got volatile.
But look, dude, okay, if you're
please tell me they okay, the NBA is dumb if they did not record that Zoom call. You know how much dude, if they were like, NBA TV, we're throwing up the 30-minute recording of the Dame vs. Portland Zoom call. You know how many people would watch that?
That would be sick, dude.
We need a leak.
We need a leak there.
It's awesome. A missed opportunity if they didn't do it.
But put yourself in Cronin's shoes. Just real quick here. You're Joe Cronin. You're the Blazers GM. Okay, let's take it back. You're just the Blazers GM, but you're in the same situation. I know you don't want to be Joe Cronin.
Yeah. I like having hair.
Yeah. Hey, that's a low blow. Every time you've talked to Aaron Goodwin and you've told him what you have going on, what teams you've talked to, what kind of trade offers you got to, and then you know that Aaron Goodwin's going out there and sabotaging these trades and telling these other teams, don't trade for my client or he won't show up, why would you want to talk to him? I wouldn't want to talk to that guy. That happened and Joe Cronin didn't want to talk to him. So the Blazers didn't want to talk to him. Dame and Aaron Goodwin wanted to talk to him, know what they were doing, so that the NBA gets involved. Like, it is embarrassing that that's how bad it got. But like, if I'm the Blazers, I don't want to talk to that guy.
I don't know. I feel like if I'm GM, I try my best not to let it get to that point where I feel like Portland was just kind of like whatever.
And that's fair.
Because you just never wanted to be at that point. Like, that's the thing. Like, if I was GM and I really wanted to rebuild, I would have just owned the rebuild. But also, it's like I don't know. I feel like if
there's problem. Okay, here's the thing.
Let me just say this. I feel like if you have a star player and you do your best to try and build around him, and you're like truly aggressive, you're never going to have things sour that much. And I feel like that was the problem, is like Cronin was pushing the rebuild and had that defeatist mindset I was talking about earlier in this recording, where like it's just a non-competitive thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like a player would love to have a GM. If that player wants to go win a championship, they want a GM that thinks like them. Like, let's go after this. Let's go get it. You know, like, you know that mindset because you were an athlete, Steven, a JUCO legend yourself, right? Like, there's just a different mindset as an athlete, as a competitor that you have. Like, I don't know. So I'm kind of escaping your question because, like, at that point, I don't know how else you handle it. It's just like embarrassing that it got to that point.
You're right. It's embarrassing it got to that point. Like, to non-speaking terms, I don't know many people in my life that it's like, I just don't talk to those people. There's a lot of people I don't like in this world, and I still will talk to them. Like, it had to have gotten really bad. So I feel like there's a part of this story that we may never find out, of like stuff that was said or stuff that was done, whether that was Joe Cronin doing really shady stuff or Aaron Goodwin doing really shady stuff. We'll never eventually know. And I think that's the sad part, is it got so bad between Joe Cronin, the Blazers, and Dame that it's like, man, like, it got so bad that you're treated the arguably the best player in franchise history this way, and he kind of hates the Blazers now. Like, that's how bad it is, man. It's embarrassing for sure. Like, again, I'm not trying to defend Joe Cronin. There's certain parts I'm defending Joe Cronin, other parts I'm not. But in that part, like, when you're not talking to Aaron Goodwin, I don't blame him because from what I know, Aaron Goodwin's out there trying to sabotage trades.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I am more inclined to believe Dame than Joe in this situation, just given track records. So that was part of it. This entire situation, it's like it's obvious that Dame's side is not the same side as what's being reported for Joe Cronin. And that was kind of my problem all offseason. It's like Joe Cronin's narrative, I felt like was being drip fed to us through media, where like Goodwin is trying to do stuff for Dame, but Dame himself was kind of just quiet. And we never truly got to hear his side. And that was kind of the problem, trying to like report on some of the stuff we heard that was like more on Dame's side, but was corroborated from both sides of the situation. Like, we had some good intel, and that was the nice thing about this Haynes report, is it kind of backed up some of the like tension and emotion that we've been talking about all offseason that went into the situation. I always said there's more to the situation than meets the eye. What you're hearing is not the full picture. There's two sides to this story. And naturally, I'm more inclined to believe Dame's, just because he's been here 11 years, has been a guy that will like be honest with the media, be straight up. Seems like a guy who would.
He's earned your
real.
trust.
He's earned my trust. Joe Cronin has not earned my trust, and a guy like Dame does not just flip a switch overnight for no reason. Like, it was obvious to me that something wrong went on between these two parties. So
now let me play a little devil's advocate here.
You love doing that.
I love doing this. You like to talk about how the media was pushing out the Blazers narrative. That's exactly what Chris Haynes is doing. He's pushing out the Dame narrative. And it's Damian Lillard positive, nothing positive about Joe Cronin. He makes Joe Cronin look like the worst guy in the world, where when you look at Woj's pieces, it's like, okay, this is all from Joe Cronin, all from the Blazers. So why should you believe Chris Haynes? Is it just the trust factor when you can't believe? Like, I feel like you believe every single thing that was written by Chris Haynes, but every single thing that Woj said or Woj wrote, you don't believe any of it.
What Chris Haynes wrote was like detailed descriptions of what went down. And it was more like it just seemed more like a factual description of some of the things that went down. Now, when you read a piece like that, like in terms of the way some of it is portrayed, just with some of the phrasing, like you can say, okay, well, maybe some of the phrasing was to make Dame portrayed as better and Cronin portrayed as worse. But just in terms of like the facts in that article and like the quote of, there's no coming back, like that's what they quoted him saying. It's that. The facts in that article are what I am like putting my stock into.
What do you think of Dame's song? I only know the one clip where he's like, I'm going on the trail, but I'm not a Blazer. Don't believe the narrative. Just know that they changed their mind. I thought that was a little petty, but I'm also old, so.
I mean, he's basically said nothing this entire time, so given how petty it seems the Blazers have been, like, he has a long ways to go.
It's probably it's one of the first petty things that he did, but
he's
I don't know.
This
I thought
about
it was
as
weird.
well as I think he could have.
Okay, let's play a game here. Let's rank the top 5 people to blame in this situation. I think we got Joe Cronin, Damian Lillard, Aaron Goodwin, Bert Cold, and Jody Allen.
Just for how toxic it got?
Yeah, like, in our opinion, who is the most to blame for this whole Damian Lillard situation? I'll go first. My number one person to blame is Aaron Goodwin. I think he is the biggest factor of why this turned out the way it is. I think he handled the situation so terribly with Dame, and he's the reason why Dame isn't in Miami. The fact that he was going out behind people's backs, trying to make deals, claiming that Dame's not showing up in certain places. We all knew that wasn't true. We all knew Dame would not show up. Like, he just handled it so poorly throughout the whole time. I think he is the biggest person to blame.
I think part of his behavior was a byproduct of things that went on before, and therefore, number one for me is Joseph Cronin. Is that his real name? What's his middle name?
I think it's Jose Cronin.
I don't think that's. I don't know if that's right. But Joe Cronin.
Let me Google it real quick.
Yeah. Give me his full name. I need to start. Dude, why have I not learned?
Joseph Edward Cronin.
Dude,
wait,
that's
no,
a perfect.
That's an old-time baseball player. Timeout.
There's a lot of Joe Cronins, so.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I've never Googled Joe Cronin before.
Yeah. There's like
that was the Red Sox player. Okay, keep going. I'll figure this out.
I think there's like a composer or something, like a music composer named Joe Cronin, and like a writer. And
no, that's Scott Storch. Scott Storch.
You know, Cronin sucks so bad he's like the 5th most famous Joe Cronin.
That's
I might be the most famous Torrey Jones.
Oh, Joe Cronin, baseball player at Boston College.
You might be the most famous Stephen Vaughan with 2 A's, a U, and a G and an H.
With the A at the end, I am. There is a different Stephen Vaughan. He's like an artist. That's Vaughn, but that doesn't count. Okay, so you rank Joe Cronin number 1. I'm going to go with number 2. I'm going to go with Bert Cold. And I think it's Bert over Joe Cronin because I feel like it's like we talked about with the Bucks and John Horst. He has autonomy. I don't think Joe Cronin has autonomy. I don't know that, but I don't think he has autonomy with the moves he makes. I think everything has to be talked up the ladder to Bert Cold, and I do think ultimately one of the reasons why the Blazers didn't do a deal with the Heat or even talk to the Heat was because Bert Cold didn't want to look bad. And I really truly believe that any trade the Blazers made with the Heat, media and everyone is going to say that they lost that trade. I don't think Bert Cold wanted to face that, even if no one said Bert Cold's name. They said, "Oh, Joe Cronin lost a trade." I think he would relay it back to himself. So I put a little more blame on Bert Cold than Joe Cronin. So number 2 for me would be Bert Cold.
Number 2 for me is also Bert Cold, behind Joe Cronin for me. That's just because I can't hold Bert Cold accountable for Joe Cronin's words without knowing if Bert Cold told him to say what he does. And also, Joe Cronin is the one who signed an injured GP2, didn't sign a backup setter. Like, he's had responsibility. Don't even get me started. You know,
how about that, though? The Suns go with Nurk and Eubanks?
And, like, I have really good friends that have a Suns channel. Guys. Yeah. So it's just going to be fascinating to watch and see them argue that stupid argument. You know what's funny, though?
I can't wait for Game 20 when everyone's like, "Oh, Eubanks, start him because he dunks."
Oh, God. I mean, well, you know what? You, as a fan base, what you're used to, you grow tired of. So, like, Blazer fans wanted DeAndre, like, he dunks more and he's more athletic, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, like, Nurkic does a lot of little things. And now Suns fans are all excited, like, Nurkic will do the little things and do the dirty work and set good screens and this and that, and he'll rebound better and all this stuff. And it's like, it's just funny to see the comparison because for all the flaws with DeAndre Ayton, now Suns fans are excited because they think Nurkic is just like a better fit, whereas Blazer fans, it's vice versa. But
then when Nurkic goes 3 for 9 on his little flip shots, the Suns fans will be thinking differently.
That's a below average night for him. So, you know, DeAndre Ayton staring at Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, DeAndre Ayton not paying attention
5 times in a row.
Guys
he stands with the cameramen on the baseline.
Guys cutting back door right behind him, not even notice anything.
I mean, I hope he has a chip on his shoulder. Like, we didn't really talk about that, but I mean, he needs a chip on his shoulder. He needs to prove himself. He needs to have that attitude. And
like I'll say this, like we were right about Cam Reddish, both of us. We were both down on Cam Reddish, like a high draft pick, highly touted guy, got thrown around a little bit. We thought he sucked. He was not very good. I think DeAndre Ayton, I don't know that he's gonna like necessarily elevate his game, but I think he could be good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. He's 18 and 10 last year, you know? Like, that's no slouch. 30.
Do you think he has a chance to win, like, most improved player?
I mean, how's he going to get 26 points per game, though? Like, he's not somebody that creates his own like that.
What if he's, like, 22 and 12?
I mean, that's not going to win him most improved. But I think that's, like, if he takes a step, that's what it will be, too. And, like, he might make an all-star game like that if the Blazers are decent. But most improved, I think, would be really hard. Like, I think he'd have to average 25, 26 a game to get it, because normally it's that sort of scoring increase. But, yeah, no, I mean, I think playing with Scoot, up-tempo offense, I assume that the Blazers will run next year will be good for him, and that chip on his shoulder, I think he'll get more touches. Like, I expect him to have his best season ever, but I think it's more so situation and maybe any motivation and chip on his shoulder that he has right now.
I mean, him and Monty, they hated each other, and Monty turned everyone against him. So you would like to think, like, maybe the attitude's a little better in Portland.
Well, I wonder if is Chauncey a better fit for a coach? I don't know.
Can Chauncey coach? That's the question.
Well, yeah, that's a bigger question. But what's also funny is the narrative around Yusuf Nurkic as a Phoenix Sun is much better nationally than the narrative around Yusuf Nurkic as a Portland Trailblazer. He's still the same exact player, but now that he's on the Suns, now it's like I saw a few national guys saying stuff like, well, actually, Yusuf Nurkic's advanced metrics were better than DeAndre Ayton's last year. And it's like, you would never have said that if he never got traded. Like, it would have never... nationally, all it's been is like, Yusuf Nurkic sucks, he's horrible, he's the main reason why the Blazers freaking suck. And now that he's a Sun, it's like, actually, he might be a little better, and he's a better fit, and he does all these little things, blah, 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 blah.
That goes back to one of our original segments we had back in the day of what if Shaedon Sharpe was on the Lakers?
Yeah. What if Yusuf Nurkic is on the Suns? Well,
it's like, Cam Reddish goes to the Lakers. Oh, time for him to break out. Bull on the Suns. Watch out. Defensive Player of the Year, Kendrick Perkins.
God, that's awful.
Okay.
Defensive Player of the Year. He's not a good defender, man.
That's what Kendrick Perkins said. He has a chance for Defensive Player of the Year off the bench.
Awful.
He's coming off the bench. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
See, like Kendrick Perkins is supposed to be new media, but he's old media. That's awful. That's something Skip Bayless would say.
He's new media, just terrible takes. Okay, so whose turn was it? Number 3 rank?
Number 3.
Because you had Cold number 2. So, yeah, number 3 for me is Joe Cronin. It's a close matchup. All 3 are close for me. Top 3 are very close. It's definitely, you got tiers. You got the top tier, the bottom tier. The top 3 is one tier. But Joe Cronin for me is 3rd, and I don't disagree with you that you can put him ahead of Bert Cold. I just put a little more on Bert Cold since he's the owner, and I really do think he was the one that was ultimately in charge of this. But again, I think Joe Cronin did some good things in this trade. I think ultimately this trade actually is not terrible, right? Like, especially if they can flip Drew Holiday, get a couple picks. Like, it's not a terrible return for Damian Lillard, which I was a little nervous about. I even told you that, Tori, like, maybe this market isn't very good for Dame, and they're gonna get a lot less than I thought. I thought it was a pretty good haul back they're gonna get, especially if they can get a couple picks for Drew.
You know what's funny is the only reason it's an acceptable haul is because there is a market for Drew.
Yeah, but I mean, Drew was the piece back that they got. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just fascinating.
I give Cronin a little bit more credit than I would Bert Cold in the positive, and so that's why for me he would be 3rd rank of reasons why this was a disaster.
For me, I had Joe Cronin 1,
Bert Cold 2. So it's Goodwin, Jody Allen, 3. Or Dame.
I'll put Goodwin 3. Yeah, because we can just get into the bottom 2. Like Dame. Goodwin was the one handling Dame's business, so I don't know how you'd put Dame above Goodwin. And then, like, Jody Allen, I don't know. I am starting to truly believe in the fact that, like, Dame has so much respect for her and is cool with her. I am starting to truly believe that it's just Bert Cold, not Jody Allen. Like,
yeah, I put Dame at 4, Jody Allen 5 because of that. That makes me think when Dame thanked her personally, and it was very thoughtful, very nice. It was the first person he thanked. I don't think Dame has a problem with her. The thing I think Dame could have done better if he would have spoke. He was putting out cryptic stuff. You know what, and this may be just me being old again. I don't know. Like, I get it. I get why you do this cryptic stuff, but it makes it very murky, and it makes it a lot more drama in the NBA. That's what fans love in the NBA, but, like, it doesn't help anybody. It just murkies up the water. I think had Dame just said some things clearly, it would have helped a little bit, and for that reason, I would put Dame 4, Jody Allen 5.
Maybe, but man, if he comes out and like speaks like that, all the people that turned against him, what's their response going to be? I feel like that's the reason for cryptic stuff is like for the people that hated him at that point,
like unfollowing the Blazers on Instagram and stuff like that stuff's just so dumb.
Who cares? Who cares who he follows, Steven? You sound like a 15-year-old high schooler. Like, she unfollowed me.
They
she
make it a big
like
deal. Everyone makes it a big deal.
That's them. That's not Dame. Like, who cares? He doesn't. So he's sad about how he got forced out from the Portland Trailblazers. So he no longer wants to see Portland Trailblazers pumping his feed with stuff that doesn't involve him.
Just mute him. What is that?
So do you think Dave's sitting here like, oh man, like if I unfollow, oh my god, people are gonna freak out. I can't let that happen. I have to figure out a way to mute them instead.
It was just my tiebreaker of why I put Dame over Jody Allen, and I admit it may just be because I'm old and I don't understand.
awful. People just okay. I always say, stop overreacting to social media because fans will always do it. Like players at the end of the season will just unfollow everyone, like they're going on a social media cleanse or some holistic Aaron Rodgers sounding type of thing, like
Darkness retreat,
giveaway, yeah, getaway. I don't know. Like they're gonna go into a cave or something, so they gotta unfollow everybody. Like, and people are like, "Oh my goodness, they unfollowed their teammate. They're getting They unfollowed their team. They're getting traded.
Their house is for sale."
And it's just like never predictable. So I don't know why people freak out about that.
So who you got it for? Who you got it for? Dame or Jody Allen?
Oh goodness.
On the spot right now.
Jody Allen, because she lets Burt Cole do what he does.
Fair. That's fair.
But then people will be like, oh, Dame lets Aaron do what he does. So I guess they all have a little bit. But yeah, Jody at 4.
That's fair. Yeah. No, I don't. We're not far off. I mean, we have a slightly different rankings, but I think we're kind of on the same page. It's just a little different. But yeah, I mean, it's just how do you feel? Like we're recording Friday night. Like, how do you feel a day after it happened? Has your mood changed any at all?
Actually, it's Saturday morning, 1 a.m. right now. We're going early. Mood. I'm just today just made me sad, bro. Like
the first day was like, wow, I can't believe this happened, like reaction. Yeah. And then this day is like, you're kind of exhausted, aren't you?
Yeah, but like, I love Dame. He inspired me to cover the team. Like, we drafted him when I was in high school and I was a sophomore, and I was like telling my friends at the time, like, this dude from Weber State is going to be the truth. Like, we have to draft them. He's going to, we haven't been able to solve our point guard of the future. You remember that phrase being tossed around like a decade ago? Point guard of the future, because we could never find our point guard of the future. And it's like, that guy could solve our point guard spot. He could actually be our point guard of the future. Like, I loved him as a prospect before we even drafted him, and then the interview he did with Mike Rice and just kind of the way he spoke, it's like, dude, we got to get this guy, and then we draft him. Like, I was all in from before day one, and like I was all in before draft day. So, and then just some of the moments he gave, dude, like he is my favorite Blazer ever. So the finality of he's no longer on the team. He will not be in a Blazer uniform next year. He's going to be playing for somebody else. It's just sad. And then his no, in just the way this whole situation has gone, made it worse. Like, yeah, his letter kind of made me sad, man. Like, I didn't cry. If you're wondering if I cried, I didn't cry, but I felt like crying. I was sad.
No, it's fair, man. I'm not gonna make fun of you for crying. I'm a very emotional person of people I care about. So, yeah, I don't mind crying. Whose jersey are you gonna get? A Dame Bucks or a Nurk Suns jersey?
Dude, Suns jerseys are clean. So, and
how about that Suns versus Bucks finals? Nurk versus Dame.
I'm ready for it.
Terry Stotts, your boy, gonna get a title with Dame.
Okay, now I'm rooting against the Bucks. Just kidding. I'm actually gonna I think I'm gonna put money down on the Bucks winning the championship, so I have even more of a reason to root for Dame and Giannis, because I love Giannis. Like, it's gonna be fun rooting for the Bucks next year. I'm gonna be rooting for him.
I love Giannis. Yeah.
Yeah, so the fact that they end up there, I'm actually, as a fan of Giannis, I'm a little happier than if Dame ended up in Miami, because it would have been weird with all the beef with Miami. And I also think all the Blazer fans absolutely hate Miami, and I think they are.
I kind of
do. Okay, like, Blazer fans overreacted to Miami fans in this whole thing. Like,
well, they were. I mean, come on.
Some of them. Okay, I met a lot of really cool Miami fans that, like, came into my channel, were really respectful and really cool, and like, yeah, sorry about these other Heat fans that are super annoying. You can't put all of a fan base in one box. Like, there's some really cool Heat fans, there's some really annoying ones. There's some really cool Blazer fans, there's some really, really annoying ones, and all the annoying ones hate me. So
they probably like me.
Yeah, probably. It makes sense. So every fan base has its characters. Like, we're all humans, so you divide it into large sections of population. You're gonna have your good characters, your bad characters, all sorts of type of people. So it's just like, why a few Heat fans troll you, so now you hate every Heat fan. Say screw all Heat fans. Like, it's just ridiculous, because I'll have these Heat fans come in my live chats and they're just respectful, and there's some Blazer fans that start just going at them and attacking them. It's like, okay, well, what do they think about Blazer fans then? They just think they are hostile and aggressive, and you know what I mean? So that's the thing, is the whole beef. I'm glad that's done. I just did not want to be tied to the Heat at all, because I thought Blazer fans, a lot of them were just overreacting to stuff regarding them.
That's the American way, though. Just get mad.
Especially
Put people in box and get mad at them. Last thing, I don't want to get too deep into it because we've already gone pretty long, but the fact that Joe Cronin went to Dame and told him to sit out the last 10 games, I'm assuming you probably don't like that. I don't have a problem with it. This happens in the NBA all the time. It's not like the Blazers invented tanking. Lots of teams sit guys out at the end of the season. I understand it was because we're going to trade it for a pick, blah, blah, blah. But I don't have a problem with this. I think every NBA team does it. So I don't have any problem with him. But like, hey, Dame, we want the best pick. We can't play you. I know for a fact that this happened when they drafted C.J. McCollum. They rested everybody. They lost their last 13 games of the season. I was a part of the organization. I heard it come out of the mouth of people that were higher up than me that had, roles with the team that actually mattered, that they are trying to lose the game. So I don't have a problem with it. What about you?
I don't have a problem with doing it. I have a problem with everything that came after it and everything that came because of it. Because Dame choosing to reluctantly sit out allowed the Blazers to draft his replacement and force him out of town. He sat out so that they could get a pick that they could trade to help him, and then it seemed like they were never intent upon trading that, and were more than happy to draft his replacement. Like, that's the part I have a problem with.
The only part I have a problem with is that this came out, and hopefully the Blazers don't get punished for it. That's my problem.
Hopefully they don't?
Yeah, hopefully the Blazers don't lose picks or something for it.
I don't think they'll lose picks, but I mean,
That's what if they lose a first round pick or something? What if Adam Silver?
They're not going to lose a first round pick for tampering. All they docked like Miami and Chicago was like picks in the 50s.
Yeah, but they just changed the rule of resting players. This is. Going into this
season. Yeah, going into this season.
Don't you think Adam Silver wants to make a mess? I'm worried.
Yeah,
about
but
it.
I don't think they can dock a first. I think
even if it's a second, I'll be mad. I'll be sad.
Well, you know what they should have done, Steven? You know what they should have done then?
Win games.
They should have gotten. You know what? Do you know what Milwaukee has? Portland's 2024 second round pick. If you were worried about getting docked a second round pick, Portland should have just gotten a freaking their own second round pick out of that trade. They were giving them Dame for Drew Holiday and 1 first and a couple swaps. You couldn't get your own second back? Really, man? I feel like Milwaukee was just like, here, we'll do this. And Cronin's like, okay, sure, let's do it. It's not Miami and it's good enough. Like, fine. Instead of like, oh, wait, you know who they got? You know who they got? And I forgot about this and realized it today on stream. You know who Milwaukee has, who I really liked in the draft last year? Andre Jackson Jr.
Oh, yeah.
I would have been more happy with this trade if they threw him in there, because I love Andre Jackson Jr. Or just their own second round pick. Like, you couldn't get Beauchamp. Like, really? Just weird.
I like that you just say, oh yeah, Joe Carter just sits there and is like, oh yeah, I'll take it. I'm sure that's how it went down.
I mean, probably not, but man, like, you're trading like Damian Lillard. You couldn't get a Beauchamp or a second? Like, you got no young players back with that. I mean, that's just
I'm with you. That was a little weird.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But that's the thing. When we are trying to trade for the stars, it's like the third Scoot Henderson can't get anything. But when it comes to other teams, it's like, yeah, we couldn't get a second, even though we were giving them Dame.
Get excited about Scoot, man. It's the Scoot era.
Oh man, he'll be a ton of fun to watch.
A lot of mistakes.
Yeah, the
fact that he played in the G League though for 2 years is going to help him a lot.
Here's the problem though. Okay. I don't want to be negative. I'm like trying to be positive about Scoot, which I love Scoot's game, and I think he's going to be like solid to good year one. It's just like I feel like a lot of people expect him to come in and play like a star and like lead this team. And here's the thing.
Let's halt those bad guys.
There's a reason why I'm saying you got to focus on development of Scoot, because he's only 19 years old. Like, you got to be patient. And the thing with Scoot is like when he can load up off of 1, he's super explosive. Playing off of 2 in the paint, finishing-wise, he's not that good, and I feel like you have to be able to do that in the NBA. Like, as a small guard, you got to be able to go off of 2. You got to be able to go off of 1. He's not super explosive off of 2 compared to how he is off of 1. Like, he can, if he has space, throw it down.
Yeah, he'll yam on you, yeah.
It's like in the NBA with these elite shot blockers, you need to be able to load up off of 2 feet, jump into their chest, and jump off of 2 so you have enough balance after you make contact to finish. And it's like, that's something for him to work on. He shoots a ton of mid-range shots. Like, I don't want him settling for mid-range. That's something I'm worried about next year watching the team is like Jeremy Grant, Scoot Henderson, DeAndre Ayton, like just a bunch
mid-range.
of guys that just settle for a bunch of mid-range stuff. You know, I mean, with Scoot, like, he has superstar potential. It's just going to take some time to get there. So for him, it's like, you know, seeing the growth is going to be a lot of fun, and he's just going to be a fun player to watch. His playmaking, I think, will be good for an NBA starting point guard day one, and his athleticism will be great for an NBA starting point guard day one. It's just some of the intricacies he'll have to learn. But that's, if the Blazers struggle next year, that's what's going to make the season fun, is watching him learn some of those intricacies and watching his growth development. And, you know, it's like, if he's a perfect player day one, like, great, you know, but it's kind of fun in a way to watch a young player grow and improve. Like, it was fun to watch Shaedon Sharpe all of a sudden start throwing dimes out of nowhere after he was kind of like a guy with tunnel vision all year. And all of a sudden you've seen him making these pocket passes and making these reads. And, you know, it's just fun to see that growth out of young players. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the expectations need to be halted on Scoot. I'm not trying to say let's build him up. Like, there's going to be a lot of mistakes being made. And I mean, you think back to when Dame was a rookie, like, he wasn't a very good finisher either inside. And now look at Dame now, great finisher inside. You know, it's one of those things you improve on when you get older, when you get stronger, you grow into your body. Scoot's already got a great, you know, NBA body, but it's going to get even better as he gets older. You know, he's going to grow into it even more. So, yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Scoot's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be an exciting team with him and Shaedon, but yeah, you know, I get the sadness of Trailblazer fans losing Dame, and the era is over. Like, that book is closed and a new book is open. So, with that, Tori, you got anything else you want to add real quick? Plug anything you got going soon?
Well, okay, so I'm dropping a content trailer on Sunday, going over content. I don't want to spoil anything yet, but we're doing a ton next season. And then we need a name for this podcast.
Yeah.
By the next time we record it. So if you have a name idea, let me know on Twitter. Leave it down in the YouTube comment section. Yeah, just if you have anything creative, the more creative, the better. The more catchy, the better. You know, I've been struggling to come up with this, so I'm turning to the YouTube community.
If it's really good, maybe I'll Venmo you like $5 or something.
Yeah. Or we'll just give you a shout out on a recording. Or something. Maybe you can come on a recording for like 5-10 minutes as a guest if you come up with a name.
I don't know about that.
My community is pretty smart, Steve, and it won't be like your radio callers.
Ooh, some of them, not great. All right, well, that sounds good. Yeah, that'd be really appreciated for all the help. Thank everyone for listening to all this kind of stuff. We love you guys. We're all part of Rip City, no matter what we think. If we think differently, the ultimate goal, I think Tori could agree with this, is to win a championship. So we're all trying to get there, man. We're all trying to come up with the best way possible. So whether you agree or you disagree, it's all good, man. It's all love here in Rip City. So for my man, Tori Jones, I'm Steven Vaughan. Catch y'all later.